Well, I really can't believe that I'm willing to go on camera looking this bad. I'm sick. I'm taking some steroids, so I'm all bloated in here. It's not COVID, but I want to talk about COVID right now. And the reason that I'm making this video on the fly, looking this shitty, is that I read today, and I've been a little behind on the news, I guess, but I read today that not only is Austria imposing a full lockdown on its citizens, but it's announced that the government has announced that it's going to make vaccines compulsory, mandatory for its entire population. You know, how many of you are just going to continue to be okay with this? I feel like, you know what I feel like? And again, I'm sorry, this is going to be 2 videos in a row where I act pissed off, but it's just absurd. And the number of people, and unfortunately, you know, I'm talking to some in my audience, and, you know, I guess it's time to lose subscribers again, but the number of people, some of you who are just like, okay with just whatever, okay, whatever I'm told to do by the government, I'll do for my safety. I just don't know when are people going to wake up, and I'm not talking about some vast conspiracy, okay? I don't know anything about the whole narrative around, you know, Bill Gates and Big Pharma and all of that. I see that, you know, I see some of that online, and I think that's probably the kind of conspiracy stuff that we want to stay away from, because I think that it makes those of us who have real concerns about these vaccines, it makes us look kind of like lunatics when we start dragging those conspiracy theories into it, and I don't know about any of that. All I know is that it is ridiculous that a government should be able to force its citizens to inject something into their bodies. And I'm not going to get into the ins and outs of the vaccine right now. I'm not going to talk about everything that I talked about in my last COVID video. I'll link to it, and then you can look at that video and you can see more of my reasoning behind why I'm suspicious of this. But just as a basic human rights issue, one's autonomy over one's body and what one puts into one's body, that should be like a priori, as the philosophers say. That's a basic human right. And you know, this lockdown stuff and everything, I understand that when COVID first happened, that there was a lot of fear, and that we didn't know what we were dealing with. We didn't know what kind of a death rate we were dealing with. We didn't know as much about transmission, about treatment, or whatever, right? It was a complete unknown. And the Chinese freaked us the fuck out with the measures that they took. Everybody thought that basically like the plague or Ebola was coming to get us. And so it ruined our economy for a while. And we're still dealing with the consequences. We're still dealing with the consequences of that economically. What do you think all of this inflation is about? It's a boomerang effect from all of the stuff that went down economically during COVID. Not to mention all of the money that our government is just throwing out the window. And I'm not even going to get into that either, because that's another political issue. But this idea, I don't understand. Do people have no sense of libertarian sensibility anymore? And I'm not talking about libertarian, like the Libertarian Party. I'm talking about like there used to be more of a basic appreciation, at least in our country. And you would think in Europe post World War II, after all that we saw with the Nazis, and no, I'm not saying that people who want to require mandatory vaccines are Nazis, but I'm just saying that there's a kind of totalitarianism here and authoritarianism here that I thought people would be more hip to. And I mean, if we've gotten to the point where the governments are now mandating that people inject a new vaccine, a new chemical agent into their bodies, that's just mandatory now. And these lockdowns, they've gotten crazy too. Look, I'm gonna say some stuff in the next few minutes that's gonna make me sound really cold-hearted, but this is just how I see life. And if you don't agree, that's fine. You're welcome to disagree, but this is how I see life. Death is inextricably wound up with life. All right. It is everywhere, and it is from death that life comes. Okay, go out and look at a garden. What is compost? What is fertilizer? All right, you have to have death, and you have to have decomposition, and you have to have shit to have new life. It's a cycle. A woman gives birth to a child, then she dies, then that child gives birth, then that child. That's how it goes. It's a cycle of life. Do I like it? No, I don't like it. I would like to live forever, and if Elon Musk I may not be living another hour. If Elon Musk could get on that, that would be nice. Find the fountain of youth for us. I don't really give a shit about Mars, but if you could try to extend my life by 20 or 50 or 100 years, Elon, I contribute to that. Anyway, but that Mars thing, it's really more of an ego project for you, isn't it? Really, Elon. But anyway, whatever. We're all running on ego, and that was a basic Freudian principle, and it's true that we are all narcissistic to one degree or another. Anyway, where was I going with all of that? Our world does not respect life, and God does not respect life. I'm sorry, some of you, you realize that life is not precious to God, right? And I'm not talking about the Christian God or the Muslim God or anything. I'm just talking about the evidence that I see in the world around me, is that if a higher power exists, and I believe that a higher power does, and I am a theist, I do believe in God, and we can talk about my beliefs later in another video. But if a God exists, I see no evidence in this world that human life, or that any kind of life, is precious to him or her or it. I don't. What I see is that death is everywhere, that it is arbitrary, that people who have much more to contribute to the world and much more to give die too soon, whereas shitty people often live to a very old age. I see that floods and hurricanes and disease and starvation wipe out billions of people, have wiped out billions of people over the course of time. That, you know, explain to me the tsunami disaster in Thailand and tell me how that shows that God has respect for life. Now, I think God has respect for our souls. I do think that there is an eternal, and this is just my own belief, but I do think that we have eternal souls, and I think that they go through cycles, and I think that there's a lot more going on than just this earthly life. But we, as finite, mortal, limited human beings with a limited understanding of life and of the universe and the cosmos and God, we cling, in a human sense, we cling to our little lives here. And that's okay, because our lives are full of relationships and love and beauty and all of that. But look, they're short, and in the greater scheme of things, they're insignificant. Now, why do I say all of that? Am I trying to make some of you feel bad or whatever? No, what I'm trying to say is this. There is more to life than just keeping people alive. There are principles that throughout the ages, people have understood. I mean, you know, watch the film Braveheart. Have you ever seen the end of Braveheart? He's being tortured at the very end, and he screams, "Freedom!" Because, you know, he recognized that actually freedom was more important than hanging on to his life. Anyway, some of us could learn that lesson. There are things, like there are higher principles, freedom, individual autonomy, the ability to enjoy the life that you have and not be locked down constantly. You know, I understand that a lot of people die from COVID. I'm not a COVID denier. I understand. I get it. And a lot of people die from a lot of things, okay? But let us not act like because COVID is out there and it's a danger, that we have to abridge and deny all of these other freedoms to keep some people alive longer. And that's what it amounts to. And look, let's just be honest about the fact that although, yes, COVID does sometimes kill healthy people, on the whole, it kills, and just look at the research, it's out there, on the whole, it kills people with multiple serious pre-existing conditions. Now, I understand it kills them earlier than they would have died, a number of them, and I understand that everyone wants extra time. I would like to have extra, my nose is running, sorry. Such a gross aesthetic here, but whatever. I would like to have a lot more time. Again, Elon, start working on it. But I also recognize that the entire world does not revolve around the number of years that I get to live on this earth. I recognize that ultimately my life, this mortal life, is insignificant. Not my soul, but my life is insignificant. And I understand there's more to the picture than if I live an extra 1, 2, 10, 20 years. You know, we have this problem in our medical field. Why do you think, what do you think is, those of you who know about this, do you know about the healthcare system? Do you know what the greatest healthcare cost is? Like, if you look at healthcare costs and the money that we spend as a society and a government on healthcare, do you know what the greatest part of that cost is? It's end-of-life care. And on the whole, that end-of-life care, do you know how much life that tends to, all of that money that we spend on that, do you know how much life that end-of-life care adds to people's lives? It adds an average of weeks. And yet people cling to that, and their families cling to that. And I understand. Look, I've lost people too. I lost a very dear, significant other when I was in my 20s to cancer. I took care of him. I watched him die. I know what death is. I know what it's like to want more time with someone. But I also know that the number of years you live on this earth is not all there is. Jesus Christ chose to leave this earth. If you're a Christian and you buy this, which I'm not a Christian, but whatever, it's still a nice story. Jesus Christ chose to leave this earth at age 33. Well, why didn't he stick around and claw and grab for more life? You know, that's not all there is. And I'm done with these lockdowns, and I'm done with the masks, and I'm done with the compulsory vaccinations. And if some of you out there are afraid, then you can stay home, or you can get as many vaccinations as you want. You're probably going to need them constantly because they don't last. But anyway, and you can wear masks all the time. You can do these things. That's individual freedom. So protect your life. Great. You have my blessing. Do it. But leave the rest of us alone, please. And to those of you who are just like, well, whatever I'm told to do, I'm going to do it because my government cares about me. I don't know. That's an offensive accent. I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm using that. But look, that's, again, there's my Homer Simpson accent. I always bring that out when I'm trying to like depict stupidity. But anyway, you know, I wish you'd think about it a little more. Reconsider. Anyway, I'm going to try not to do any more angry videos for a while. But I just couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it when I read that a Western government is going to mandate that its citizens inject a new pharmaceutical into their bodies. That's just all right. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.